Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm excited to bring you the second episode in our new webisode series, Mixed Media, The Paper Wishes Way. Those of you who joined us last time know that we're exploring mixed media techniques, but we're doing it the Paper Wishes way you know and love, with carefully curated supplies and easy to replicate techniques. Our goal is to have fun with mixed media. I'm really glad that you're joining us for this new series, so come play with us. Let's begin with this week's collection of supplies. We're going to create our card backgrounds with the help of the Sage Mini Collection from 49 and Market. This paper pack has 4 double-sided papers and 2 sheets of coordinating laser cut embellishments. This is what a few of them look like. Now, in the last mixed media webisode, we took advantage of the collaged background papers for instant dimension, and we're going to continue with that approach this time too. Since these are 12 by 12 pattern papers, you can choose which section you want to use on the front of your cards and coordinate on the inside of them as well. And then you can add your own style as you build on the collaged background. Now, in this week, we are also going to bring in some Eucalyptus Dreams layered embellishments. We're also going to play with Sage washi strips. We're going to use some of our chipboard embellishments and the natural stitched frames. We're also going to incorporate some jute twine. Now, all of these elements are going to give us even more dimension and style, and they're going to make it really easy to do mixed media because they're all designed to coordinate. So in our last mixed media segment, we talked about how often mixed media features a combination of textures. So for example, matte paper combined with a shine of foil. Now today we're going to build on that theme, and we're going to look at another way to add foil. We'll also mix in some additional textures and techniques with our stitched frames. You can see back behind here, as well as some washi strips. Okay, let's start with our card. You can see the collaged background paper and that gorgeous green foil going around the edge. Now this is just enough to contrast with the background paper, but not so much that it detracts from the design. Let's take a look at that foiling process. Once again, we're going to be working with foil from WOW, and this is in the spearmint color. And I'm also going to be using this right onto a piece of some of that beautiful collaged background paper. So I'm going to move aside my nice package of foil, and I'm going to be using some little scraps that I've got saved. So as you can see, you can really make the most out of each of these packages. Now I need to have something to stick my foil onto my cardstock, and this week it's going to be the Humble glue stick. So you can use any glue stick that you happen to have on hand. A regular stick glue is going to do the trick. Now what I'm going to do is just apply the glue along the edge of my cardstock, and I can even hold this and get around on the very edge of that. And working this along here just as if I were going to actually, glue something together, which is kind of what I'm doing. So I'm going to take this little scrap of foil. Every little bit can be used, and then kind of wrap this around here. And really make sure that I've got that burnished down, and then I'll add this little strip over here. And of course I would do all 4 sides of my piece, but I think in this case just the 2 will do. Now I'm going to make sure to put my cap back on my glue stick, and I just need to let this dry. Sometimes I find that putting an acrylic stamping block on top really helps to kind of keep everything together while you're waiting for that to dry. It shouldn't take very long, but while we're waiting for that to dry, I'm going to slide that aside and bring in one of the stitched frames, and we'll get started on a technique with this. Now, these are actually really stitched, so it's a nice sturdy cardstock with some beautiful stitching around here. It's a lovely neutral color, and of course these can be used as is. They can also be altered. So what you can do is just grab a pair of scissors and cut them apart, and you can have some really fun accents to use in lots of different ways. So what I want to show you is a really simple inking technique. We're going to turn this from a lovely, nice neutral into a really pretty green. And I'm using the Harmony by Spectrum Noir ink pad, and this is in the Pine Tree color. So just as you would with any direct-to-paper inking, just go ahead and rub that ink pad or press that ink pad right onto the surface. And you can add as much or as little ink as you want to. I like to start with a light touch, and of course you can always come back and add more if you want to. So I've got my ink on here. I also like to kind of soften it a little bit, and I'm just using a dry cloth to kind of spread this and blend it a little bit as well, just to soften that as we go around the edges here. And so this has just instantly turned my really pretty neutral frame into a really pretty pine green frame. So this is another technique that I've used on that card. So we've got foil and we've got some stitching. Let's go back to our foil and see if we've got that glue dried quite yet. We'll see what our effect is here. So I'm going to pull this off, and I can see already that foiling on there is looking really good. I'm going to come around on this side, and there we go. So you can see wherever I've got that glue on there is really shining, and of course along the edges on there as well. So pretty quick and pretty easy, just as long as it takes for that glue to dry, which is not long at all. So we're starting to build up our elements here, our foiling, our stitching. Let's take a look at working in another texture with our washi strips. So let me grab my washi strips here. Now these are like a washi tape, but instead they are strips rather than a roll. So they're transparent, just the way regular washi tape is, which means that whatever surface or color you put them on, it will kind of shine through here. So I've got a strip of some of that beautiful cardstock paper from our paper pack, and I'm just going to peel off one of these strips and simply position this down like so. And there you can see I'm able to get that beautiful dimension and the softness and another texture, but I'm also able to create some depth and dimension on here. Now I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and snip off that excess bit, because of course every little bit can be used again and again. Okay, so for our card now we've got foiling, stitching, and washi. And let me bring back in the card again and I'll show you. I've actually got a little bit of foiling going on around the edge of that butterfly element too. And that is of course also from that pattern paper collection. Now I also added some laser cut accents, and you can see them right here. I've got one bit here, I've got another bit here, and another bit down here. And these, of course, have just been snipped apart, so you can easily do that and then just glue them onto the front of your card. The other elements that I have here are the layered embellishments, which is that big sheet of dimensional accents that we looked at earlier. And I've also got some of these handmade flowers. And finally, I've got some jute twine and also some smooth dazzles on here too. So if I'm counting correctly, we have between the jute and the dazzles and the washi tape and the frames, I think we've got about 8 different types of texture on this one card. Oh, and plus the collage pattern background paper that we started out with. So at least 9. And yet I think this design is really cohesive. Sometimes I think we think of mixed media as being absolutely everything in the craft room, and you can do that. We've got a lot going on here, but I think you can also have a lot going on without it compromising the overall design or being overwhelming. So a couple of design elements I want to point out to you. We've used some pretty subtle tone-on-tone colors here, and that's really keeping everything quite gentle. It's not a very high contrast design. We also have a lot of overlapping elements. So we've got some strips of the frames that are overlapping onto the background paper, and then of course the jute, and then the flowers, and things are kind of going at angles as well too. And this really helps to direct your eye through the composition. So let's take a look on the inside of the card here too. You can see that we've got some more foiling again on some of this background paper. Here are some of the elements from the paper pack, and then another little bit of washi strips on here as well. Okay, so there's a lot going on this card, some really fun and different techniques. let's take a look at another design. Our second card project features all of the same supplies and materials, but it has a slightly different effect. So for this card, I used a lot more glue around the outside edges of the card, and I angled the glue stick in to get a really scruffy, distressed effect. So let's take a look at that process. I'll move aside my card and bring in a piece of my cardstock. And again, I'm going to bring in not my nice new package of foil, but all of my extra little scraps in here. And once again, I'm going to grab that glue stick. This time, instead of going just along the edges, I'm really going to add some heavy application around here. So I'm just going to do these two sides and then take some of my my scrappy bits of foil and just place these down on here. So you can kind of patch things together. Let's see, I'll turn this around this way and pop this down on here. I've got a little bit of extra space down at the end. Maybe I can add a little bit more glue down here and then add my extra little bit of foil like so. And again, just really burnish these down. If you want to put a block or a book on top to really make sure that that stays down there, you can also do that. So while this is drying, let's take another look at the card project itself. So here's what that scruffy, beautiful edge is going to look like. A couple of other things going on here. I've added more washi tape, and this time I've put them down directly onto that pattern background paper. So I have a strip here, another strip here, and then a third strip here, following the rule of uneven numbers. And I've placed them vertically to balance with the strong horizontal lines that I have on the background paper. I've also got an inked cut frame as my corner treatment on here, and that also helps to balance the pattern on the background design that I have over here on the left. Now my border has this lovely laser cut chipboard piece, and it's got some jute wrapped around the front panel of the card. So if you're wondering what the card looks like on the inside, especially with that jute on there, as you can see here, I've just simply covered it up with another piece of patterned paper. And again, I've got the washi tape on here also going vertically. And you'll notice that the edges are cut at an angle. So I think I mentioned earlier, you can cut those washi strips with a pair of scissors. That's no problem. Okay, and then back to the card front, you can see that I've topped things off with some of the cutouts, and I've got this pretty butterfly motif, plus the label with the sentiment that looks handwritten. I did not handwrite this message on here. This is exactly how it comes. Although the back of this is just a solid pattern, so you could write your own sentiment on there as well. Okay, let's check the foiling on our piece and see how we are. I'll bring this back in again, and we can pull this off and look at our beautiful, scuffy, distressed foiling on here. Just how beautiful that is. And yes, you can believe I'm still going to be saving the rest of these little strips. I can definitely get some more foil out of those. So just with a little bit of glue stick, we've created some light edging, as we've seen in our earlier card, as well as some heavier edging too. So two great looks from one very simple tool that you happen to have in your stash already, I can imagine. Thank you so very much for joining me today, and thank you for being a part of the Paper Wishes family. We're really glad that you're here with us, and I hope you enjoy this new series, and I cannot wait to see what you create as you explore mixed media the Paper Wishes way. Do be sure to leave a comment because we love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them together in a creative money saver just for you. For the money saver, just see this webisode on paperwishes.com.